Yeah, I guess, well, we just announced this morning in conjunction with GDC that the Corona SDK is now completely free. And what that means is that essentially everything that you were able to get in the Pro subscription tier is now available to everybody. And so, previously, if you wanted to get access to daily builds or in-app purchase or premium graphics features or, Pro tier plugins, you had to pay money. That's now completely free.
Yeah,
So that's the really big news, is that we just want to make Corona available to as many developers as possible and take the friction out of just adopting Corona. We just want to remove any reasons why you would not want to use Corona. And so, in addition, I think we still have other paid products like Corona Enterprise and Corona Cards for iOS and Android, but Corona SDK itself will be completely free.
So just to be clear, there you're saying that Enterprise and Corona Cards, those are still paid products. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, and I would imagine that is the community kind of split as to who uses that? I mean, if you're Enterprise, are you clearly Enterprise, and if you're Pro, you're clearly Pro? How does that break down? Do you know?
I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but I know a lot of people were Pro, but I think there were even more that were starter users that just used the basic stuff in Corona and weren't using all the features, and a lot of that had to do with just cost. They wanted to play with a lot of the features that Corona came with for free already, like just the very basic things like putting images on the screen, but they didn't, and they wanted to get their feet wet, get some apps in the store, but they hadn't been able to take full advantage of all sort of advanced graphics features, a lot of the more advanced plugins, or even just being able to have access to daily builds and really use the latest greatest features of Corona. I think in addition, they actually will also now get access to Windows Phone 8 for Corona Cards for free as part of that. So pretty exciting stuff.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I guess my question more really geared towards the fact that if you're in the enterprise space, you're probably you can do a ton of stuff with Pro, and then if you're in the enterprise space, then you're actually integrating with third-party libraries, or you're kind of going beyond the Pro user. So
right. So if you're an enterprise user, I think the kind of user you're typically going to be the ones who are very comfortable with Objective-C on iOS and comfortable with Java on Android. And so those kinds of developers will say, you know what, I want to customize Corona, do more than what we have out of the box, which is a lot. But sometimes they've got their sort of niche thing they need to integrate, their niche SDK or service or product that they need to integrate. And so enterprise sort of really fits a nice sort of gap for those folks.
So let me ask you. So I want to ask this question because I know it's one that's going to pop into people's mind right away. Is what about the people who just purchased or renewed their license? What about those guys? What do they get?
Yeah. So we realized that some people had bought subscriptions recently, and we wanted to take care of them. So what we did is we said, look, we took a look at sort of the basic Pro and Enterprise tiers, and we said, hey, we're going to give you some amazing and free upgrades. So for the current basic customers, we're going to upgrade them to Corona Enterprise, and give them a month-for-month subscription to Enterprise, and in addition, we'll also give them the same amount of time with Corona Cards, iOS, and Android. With Corona SDK Pro customers, we're going to upgrade them to Corona Enterprise as well, but instead we're going to give them 1.5 months for every month they have, and the same for Corona Cards for iOS and Android. And then for enterprise customers, obviously they're still going to continue to be paid customers, but we didn't want them to feel left out. So we said, you know what, we're going to give you Corona Cards iOS and Corona Cards Android licenses 1 month, month for month. And so that way, if they want to be able to explore, and for those enterprise customers, we thought, hey, they're already using native code. Why don't we give them, an additional access to Corona Cards as well? Because I think they'll really be able to take full advantage of that.
What about those folks who just say, look, enterprise is definitely not for me, and I just bought a license, and what else you got? Yeah.
So what we decided was we said, hey, look, there are people that bought really recently, and they bought in the 2015 calendar year, so January 1st, 2015 or after. We said, there's a chance that some of them won't want these upgrades, and so we said you can request a prorated refund, and all you have to do is email us at refund@coronalabs.com by March 15th, the end of the day in March 15th in the Pacific time, and if you meet those conditions, we'll issue a refund that's prorated.
Okay, that seems fair. I mean, I know I've seen a few people who said, hey, I just renewed my subscription to Corona, and so
right,
that would definitely be a concern. So good. Okay, so one of the questions that came up today on Facebook was, why make Corona free? What's the deal there?
Well, we just want to take the friction out. I just got an email from a longtime developer who was one of our first developers. He even wrote some things for our ecosystem. He's like, you know what, it's great that you did this because I was thinking about playing with Corona, but I just couldn't justify the cost. And we hear that story a lot, so we wanted to encourage more and more folks to use it. And so that's one of the big reasons that we decided, hey, let's do this. We want to make more and more people just take reasons away from people not to use Corona. The more people using Corona, I think the better off we are. I think maybe what person's asking is, well, how does that work? What's the catch? Not everything's not free. And sorry, I'm getting distracted by one of the guys. So there was this camera moving around on one of the panelists. So what's the catch? What's going on there? And I think Fuse Powered, they make their money by helping developers make money. So and as I said in my blog post, when you guys succeed, we succeed. And so we just want to sort of align our business models with that. So we are going to make some of the Fuse monetization technologies available to you guys. It's not going to be required in the sense that you'll have to put ads in, but if you want to do ads and you want to do in-app purchase, and you're paying attention to how people are using it, from how the most successful developers are using it, they're going to be wanting to use technologies like Fuse as monetization engine. And so we said, hey, look, we're going to make that integration available to you guys. You don't have to do ads if you don't want to, but if you do and you make lots of money, then we're going to make some money. And so that's sort of how we approach it. It's not any sort of like, we're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes here. It's just like if you guys succeed, we succeed, and for us, it's all about just creating more excitement around the Corona community. More people using Corona, more people making money using Corona, the more successful we're going to be as well. So that's pretty much the story.
Well, if you do math the way I do math, you take the yearly subscription price to Corona and you subtract, you subtract it out, and now it's free, and you make an app and you make $1. Well, you've now effectively made $1, right? You've made $1 profit. So you know what I'm saying? Like there's no cost to build, no cost to publish. Everything is pure
right,
profit
exactly.
after that.
Right, and we recognize, and we saw that for the past, I've been doing this. Corona started 6 years ago, so we've seen this sort of argument from day one was just like, well, I just don't want to pay that much money up front, and so we're like, okay, well, let's just take the friction out. And the thing about free is Corona SDK, the Corona SDK itself is truly free. If you look at another announcement today that happened, I think someone put it on the comments of the blog, another engine also went free, quote unquote, but there were strings attached. They were going to say, oh, well, you also have to give us 5% revenue share of all the revenue that you make. We're not doing that. We're saying, look, the only time we make money is if you happen to use our monetization engine with Fuse that helps you make more money. So if we help you make more money, then we should get some money out of that. But that's all happens transparently to you guys. We don't actually have to. You guys don't actually have to worry about it. You guys are going to get your cut, and we've already worked out our cut with the other folks in the back end. So there's no magic here. It's all like everyone is happy.
It seems to make a lot of sense that that there's there are advertisers and then there are consumers, and then Fuse and Corona are in the middle of that, and so the developer can create apps and be a part of that ecosystem and not have to be charged, but the advertiser is the one effectively paying. The advertiser is the one who is funding the project. Right,
and so what we're working on is essentially a Fuse plugin to do this. I think someone asked this question just now on the panel, saying, hey, well, how's this going to work? So there will be a Fuse plugin, and we're still working out all the details. I think there'll be something that we're integrating to the core that's always going to be there, but it won't be like something that you have to use. And so it'll just be there and available to you. And if you want to use it, great. And if you don't want to use it, then that's up to you. I think more broadly, what the big announcements that have been coming from Fuse this week and last week, and with the session that I mentioned that's happening this week at GDC, what we're talking about is thinking about monetization more holistically. So I think usually people think of monetization as, let's just do in-app purchase, let's just do advertising, and think about them in isolation. And what Fuse has done is said, no, let's think about that holistically, because even if you're doing in-app purchases, you want to make offers within your app that basically promote the kinds of merchandise or goods that you're selling in your in-app purchase store. So, for example, maybe you've got maybe it's Thanksgiving, right? And you want to do some sort of promotion around saying, hey, buy today and all the things that are in our purchase are 25% off, right? That's sort of is a form of an offer or advertisement. And so what Fuse is saying is, look, let's look at those holistically so that you can sort of give a spectrum of the types of ads you want to do. And sometimes maybe you only want to do these kinds of offers. They're not true ads in the advertising sense, but they're sort of like making offers or merchandising type ads that are sort of selling your in-app purchase products. But maybe later on you want to do an A/B test where you say, hey, maybe let me put an ad, one or two ads for half of my customers, and you may find that you're going to make more money. You're going to make some more money off these guys when you do it. 5% of these guys get ads, and the magic is that it all happens server side, because you don't have to resubmit your app to suddenly change the logic. You can just say on the Fuse server, hey, I suddenly want to serve up some ads to these guys and see what happens. Do an experiment. And in fact, there is a large studio that recently did it using the private beta version of this Fuse product, and they were seeing a lift. They said, they always focused on in-app purchase before. They suddenly decided, hey, let's just do a few ads, and suddenly they're saying, hey, wow, I'm seeing a lift in the number of people buying in-app purchase products, and it was pretty powerful. So we are. I hate talking about this because it's not available to you guys right now, but I wanted to give you a sense of where things are headed, and this is something that's going to be actively discussed at GDC and demonstrated at the booth at GDC, at the Fuse Corona Labs booth that we have. So for those of you who are out there who are going to be at GDC, please come. But otherwise, you'll be definitely hearing about more of this soon. So
yeah,
just as a quick preview of that.
So just to add on to what Walter's talking about there, if you're at GDC, John Walsh is actually presenting a session tomorrow at 11:15 a.m. On player-centric monetization. So if you guys are in the area, go check that out. I think it's going to be recorded by some of the staff, but if you want to see it live, you definitely go check that out. And then I guess another part of that too, Walter, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Fuse Powered has released a new portal or new dashboard where developers can
yeah, there'll be a new dashboard. I think it'll be more relevant to folks that are using it currently, and there are a few select Corona developers who are in the private beta who will probably be interested in seeing that. But as far as the general community, when we launch this, you'll just see the new dashboard, which is a lot better than the old dashboard. I think it'll be a lot more in line with how you want to be approaching, thinking about monetization with your end users. And it'll help you analyze them. It'll help you segment them and say, hey, things along the lines of, hey, have they done an in-app purchase in a past month? Okay, maybe I won't want to show them any ads for another month because they bought in the last month. Or have they completed level 2? Okay, maybe now I will start, offering them some of these in-app purchase items that are interesting. But that level of segmentation, I think, is really powerful because it's really contextual, and it really makes sense to the developer. It's not just sort of blindly saying, let me just stick an ad or an offer here or there, and I think a lot of people naively do that, and I think that's why it's been pretty ineffective. And I think that's sort of what Fuse's strength is helping you understand. Hey, you want to sort of judiciously place these sort of ads in certain places, and sometimes you want to have certain rules that say even if I execute this code, there won't actually be an ad shown because there's actually no point that the rule wasn't satisfied on the server side, so there's no reason to show an ad. Even though in code I may have said show an ad.
Yeah, I got to sit in on a demo on Friday of the new dashboard and how things are broken down. And the one thing that kind of stuck out to me was this aspect of segmentation. Being able to break up and see what was happening by groups. So if you've got one of the examples that was used is like if you want to be able to display certain types of ads to U.S. to users who were in the U.S. but had French devices, or who were actually in France and had French devices. You could break it down granularly and then be able to show, just like you say, based on certain rules and stuff like that. So making advertising smarter sounds like a great idea. I mean, it's something that I know people have been looking for a long time.
Right, and it's not just ads; it's also just offers to your existing in-app purchase products. So it doesn't even have to be like ads for Coca-Cola. Or promoting the next Angry Birds game, right? It can be just ads within your app. So that's the cool thing is you have sort of that full flexibility.
Excellent. Well, hey, so you talked about GDC. You mentioned some of the apps that are being demoed there. I've got a few of them here. Do you want to talk about those briefly?
Yeah, so the other thing that we announced today was that we are going to be supporting new platforms. And this goes back to sort of the state of Corona post roadmap that I gave basically maybe a month and a half ago, or about a month ago, actually. And so what we're announcing today is that our intention to support Mac apps and Windows 32 apps. So the same apps that you're writing for iOS and Android and Windows Phone 8 will now be things that you can ship on the Mac App Store and as Win32 apps. So you potentially could target the Steam App Store, for example, or just release it as a download yourself. And so what Charles is showing on the screen share right now are demos of 4 apps that we've gotten permission to show. And so one of these is Alone, which is a really fantastic app. That is really difficult also, and I'm not good at it, so I'm letting Charles play it because I'll just embarrass myself if I try to play this. And looks like he's a pro. No, he's an expert.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the simplest here.
Come on, dazzle us with your skills.
Yeah. Now, so we're gonna get a little bit of
frame.
And this frame rate is due to Hangout, not because of Corona. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, we always get whacked by the Hangouts frame rate.
There is I thought that wasn't there. Hold on. In the settings, it seems like. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's what I play on. I like to play on God mode. Then.
What are the sound effects?
Well, the sound effects don't come out on Google Hangout, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Hangout, yeah.
Yeah, it's an audio shortcoming of Google Hangout. But yeah, so you basically.
I can make sound effects like last time.
Oh yeah. So basically, it's an avoidance. You're trying to avoid. If you were going to play this correctly, you'd try to avoid all those jagged edges, which I can't do. So.
Oh, that's why you're able to fly through them. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I'm in God mode, so.
Okay.
Okay, I'm having.
So, yeah, let's show some of the other apps.
Okay, and then here's Freeze, which is we've been featured, lots in the iTunes store. So hold on here. So this is a puzzle. Kind of a puzzle game. We flip through some of the intro stuff here. So I'm just using the mouse right now to essentially move.
And it's running smoothly on your computer, right? This is just a Hangout.
Oh yeah. Hangouts are terrible for demoing this kind of stuff. But yeah, it runs just as smooth on the desktop as it runs on the device. So.
How to make your app look bad? Show it on Hangouts.
Yeah, but you have there was the overlay notifications, little buttons and stuff, and things like that, and you can freeze the game for a period of time so that you can move the puzzle around. But anyway, so here the important parts here are that you can see that the game is still sort of in mobile mode. Right, so it's still kind of
what's in a portrait orientation.
Yeah, but here's Lost City.
One, right, is going to be landscape, which fits better, and it's a great Myst style game. If you guys are familiar with the Myst style games back in the '90s.
Yeah, and of course this one almost takes up my entire screen, and I'm sure that's how it was packaged.
Right. So we're still figuring out how we want to do full screen versus just windowed modes, and we're thinking that probably. I was just having a discussion with one of the engineers who's working on it that probably it's just going to be some config.lua settings that control at startup whether it's a full screen or not, and whether it can enter into windowed or whether it can go from window to full screen, things like that.
So there's that style of game, and then RGB Express, of course, is also running in sort of a portrait mode. And all these games are fun. I mean, if you haven't tried these out, definitely go check them out. We'll put a link in the show notes to all of them, so you can check them out in the app stores. But so RGB Express, you're basically trying to deliver packages. So you just want to drag your route, and you're supposed to just try to pick up packages and then deliver them to their destination. So.
Yeah, it's too bad you can't hear the sound, because I think the sound really adds a significant element to a lot of these games, just in terms of the production quality.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I can create some separate videos just kind of walking through these and show them running. That way people can get I can capture the sound from this side. But that's kind of a look at it, and lots of good stuff there. And you guys so it's all being demoed at GDC, correct?
Yeah, it's being demoed at GDC. Our next major milestone is to essentially package it up so that we can share it out with you guys in some sort of private beta form. So.
And any kind of, I know you hate timelines, but any kind of timeline on that?
I'm not going to give any timelines on that one. Only because I don't want to put pressure on my engineers, because I think they'll just do things more quickly if they don't feel pressure. They're doing it as quickly as possible, but the fact that we're demoing GDC is a big sign of how far along we are.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because there is sort of diminishing results, right? There is a certain amount of concept around more time doesn't necessarily equal better product, right? So you kind of want to get things done quickly, but at the same time, pressure doesn't necessarily make people perform better. So
yeah, it doesn't always. I think there's certain situations where it's called for. I think they were already under a lot of pressure to get these demos ready for GDC, so I don't want to add more heat right now. I want to give them a few days to sort of just relax and not have to worry about things and just plug along. And they're pretty excited. They're pushing things forward, which will mean probably a little bit of instability in some daily builds just because of a lot of under-the-hood changes. But we are pushing forward.
All right. Well, we've got a full panel here. Kind of want to open it up for everybody to ask their questions, and then that way we can let Walter go off and make more Corona stuff. So, so Ed, I know you have questions. Do you want to start off?
Actually, you answered most of my questions. If somebody wants to jump in first, yeah, you did a great job as far as going down the list even before I asked you any questions.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Those were I just brain dumped those questions and thought, what are people going to want to ask? Brian, you got anything? Greg?
No, I think everybody's just very excited about all these changes. I know that the Mac and PC is something that you guys have been working on for a long time, and the community has wanted, and can't wait to start publishing to the Mac and Windows stores for our apps. HTML5 was kind of a preview of that, but now we've got native apps or native platform.
Beyond awesome.
Hey, Walter, is there going to be an expansion of HTML5 support?
So HTML5 is still on our radar. Obviously, our resources are focused on Mac app and Win32, so doing that and HTML5 is probably too much for us to choose. So we sort of put that on a sort of lower priority track. So we're focused mostly on getting you Mac and Windows first, and then I think we'll be able to come back to HTML5.
And I know we talked about this before the show, before I hit the start button, but then I don't remember if you mentioned it since then. Steam support?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily know that we'll have it built into the Windows store, but I think what we'll do is we'll figure out if there's an enterprising developer who wants to help us get sort of a Steam support plugin going, and obviously if someone is interested in doing that, we might be able to arrange it so that you can get earlier access to Windows support for Corona. So
you get this look on your face and you're like, and I want you to do something.
And I was like looking exactly at you, and I'm going to leave the you.
Nice. Killing me.
Yes,
I'm writing a note. I'm taking a note.
I am talking to you.
It would seem like a natural progression of things, desktop apps, that sort of thing. It seems like Steam is a very popular.
Right, absolutely. And so I think just to taking a step back, one of our internal debates was whether or not we should do universal Windows apps or Win32 based apps. And we chose and universal Windows apps allow you to run on the Surface and run on across the phone and tablets and all these other devices. And we chose Win32 apps specifically because we knew Win32 apps were the things that were compatible with Steam. And so that was the reason why I keep emphasizing Win32 as opposed to just Windows apps. Because the Win App Store that Microsoft has, you can target it, and that's what Microsoft is pushing for. But we realize that from the many conversations we've had in terms of our research, everyone who's an indie seems to care a lot more about Steam, and so that's why we chose Win32 based apps.
Well, with 30 years of install base.
yeah. I don't know why.
4 million people online at any one time. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So
I have a quick question. Will building for Windows be akin to building for iOS or Android, or will it be more like the Windows Phone where it's going to be Corona cards based and it'll be packaged inside of a Visual Basic?
Well, so there's no question that the support we have for desktop won't. Our initial, what we put out there initially, will be just a subset of what you have for Corona SDK. I think our goal is to sort of say let's follow in the path of Corona cards from the perspective of limiting the feature set. And we do think that in certain cases it will make sense for lots of developers to be able to have to use Xcode or Visual Studio so they can add additional functionality that we just don't provide. Whether or not there will be a sort of a easy one-click button path from the simulator to just do a quick build of an app that may or may not, that will just have plain vanilla functionality, that's something that we could consider. But I do think that a lot of people will want to have sort of custom this or that they need to add inevitably just because it's a desktop application. So part of that may be a little bit unavoidable. Things like menuing and things like that are not things that we would be able to wrap up cleanly in a Lua API. If you want to add new menu items, things like that, you're inevitably going to have to deal with the native files, native resource files for that platform just to deal with that kind of stuff. And
sure.
So from that perspective, we are going to package it, though we want to make it as easy as possible. So, for example, we're working on things like saying, hey, if we have to use Xcode, let's at least create a new project. Let's extend the new project template. So if you go to Xcode and say new project, you'll see a Corona Mac app project that you can create, and it'll create a project for you. It'll create a Corona folder that you can add your Lua files into, and so you can still target Corona Simulator to run those files, so you can preview really quickly in that Corona style workflow. But then you still have the Xcode project for all these weird sort of like entitlements and all these weird things that you need to do that Apple really requires on IO or on the Xcode Mac side of things.
Will targeting desktop OSs be an SDK level feature, or will that most likely get bundled into like an enterprise or Corona cards type of thing, or maybe its own feature?
That's sort of a little bit of debate. I think I'm on my side, and then there are people on the business side, because we have a parent company now.
Those pesky people that
I
want
am no
to make
longer
money.
the master of the fate of things, just to make that clear. My opinion counts, but it's not the ultimate thing that counts. I'll just tell you what my personal preference is, that we should just make it available for free, because I think the more people that use it, it's a great way for other people to be introduced to the Corona platform, because they focus exclusively on desktop apps and gets them into mobile. It's a great way for you guys who are doing mobile apps to go onto desktop side of things. But my personal preference is to make it free, but I can't make a promise if that's what you're looking for.
I heard free. That's all I heard.
You heard it here, people on the forums. Walter said it would be free.
We'll cut that part out of the video.
I'm going to repeat this for the next minute, just so it can't be edited out. That I'm going to interject
Too late.
conversation that I did not promise anything about free.
We're going to make a Vine out of it.
Headroom
By the
video
way,
of you saying free.
I won't be surprised if I'm unable to build on my account later today.
By the way, did I just mention that I did not promise that this would be free?
It's nothing you can do that we can't cut.
By the way, I also promised it wasn't going to be free. I am just going to keep playing this
Poor
game.
Walter, now he feels under the
I can
gun.
play this game all day, guys.
I got a question for you, Walter.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I'm going to put it in the chat window. Does the chat window get shown? No. Bastards.
Yeah, no, it does, but you gotta click it. You gotta choose.
Oh, right.
Google
So
doesn't
I'm
let
going
you
to
choose
choose to
everything.
tell you that there's no guarantee that desktop apps will be free.
Well, speaking of desktop
But we all hope it will be. I don't know. I don't know.
and features, one question that you may not be able to answer, but currently, very few people do this, but I use the simulator sort of like a poor man's desktop while I'm working.
Yeah.
And on the if you run the Android simulator,
Yeah.
or you're running on OS X in any simulator, you can get the keyboard. So I use keyboard inputs for a lot of my shortcuts while I'm editing my levels and stuff like that. I make my own little mini editors. We kind of had this discussion a long time ago.
Okay.
My question is will the key inputs work for the Windows and OS X?
I believe so. I think they would have to.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. That and probably like joystick support.
Yeah, it'd be odd if they didn't work.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Well.
Though that statement may contain forward-looking statements that may or may not reflect actual reality.
We've gotten you into the disclaimer mode. Disclaimer mode off.
This hangout may or may not contain forward-looking statements that may or may not reflect actual or intended reality. Carl, did you not talk to the legal team about this? You're supposed to say at the beginning.
I'm totally slapping that on the beginning. Our lawyers tell us.
Okay, we're gonna take this offline, Charles, but we're gonna have a talk. You need to have this little thing at the beginning and end.
How about a T-shirt made out of that?
Watch out, we're gonna have a new phrase.
We'll get a freeze frame of Walter's face.
I feel like if you start cutting this out, your hangout's going to be like 2 minutes long because I'm going to keep interjecting these things.
That's good. Anybody else got any other questions?
I know how you guys, how folks are in the forums. Walter said this. He said this. I'm like, jeez.
I don't think there's any
cat. I gave a telephone.
That's just love, Walter. That's just all that is. That's just love. All right. Well, good. Thanks for shedding some light on that, or not. And
yeah, or not. I don't know.
And so, if you are thinking about building an app and you haven't tried Corona yet, go try it out. Now it's free, and there are other features coming down the road. And also, if you
there are other features. So, if anyone knows how to write shader code, who's already familiar with GLSL, send me a note. But you have to know GLSL already. I don't have time to teach you. So, but if you already happen to know it, send me a note at walter@coronalabs.com.
Well, and that's worth mentioning as well. Corona Labs is still hiring. Is that correct?
Well, we just hired a couple folks, so I don't know if we filled everything already, but we might still be hiring.
Okay.
So we are in particular looking for folks that are local in the San Francisco Bay Area. We want to work out of our Palo Alto office, but yeah.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, if that's you, we'll have a link in the show notes to where you can.
Yeah, so just send me another email also. So.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been to Fuse Powered in a while, definitely recommend that you do that. Like we said, they just revamped their website. They just launched a new dashboard. So there's lots of information over there, so you can get started.
And I'm proud to say that they based it off our CSS. So.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Though I think we did a better job on our site. Don't tell them.
I won't send them a link to this video. Okay, got it. Check. All right, Walter. Well, thanks for joining us. We're gonna, you can hang out with us and listen to this next segment if you want, or if you gotta go, that's cool too.
I think actually you probably need to take off. But if there's any more questions, I can try to answer them with the caveat that they may or may not contain forward-looking statements.
All right. Thanks, Walter.
All right. Thanks guys.
Walter.
Okay. Bye.